it seems like the Boise Police has been on Bike Index. But Lily Williams, Lily represents Bike Index. She's also a professional racer, and she was in town a couple years ago racing here locally. And so she has her master's degree from Medill School of Journalism. Did I say that right, Lily?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. But realized along the way that bikes are the most deserving recipients of words, and so she writes and communicates for Bike Index. I know I've reached out to her many times when we're going through our signups and stuff like that. Her and Brian have been great to work with. And plus, I know you're instrumental in helping some of the universities and such get signed up too. So I am just going to put myself on mute and turn you over to Lily with Bike Index.
Yeah, hey everybody. Thanks for having me, Ed. My name is Lily Williams. As Ed mentioned, I am the communications director for the 501c3 nonprofit Bike Index. And we are a bike registration and stolen bike recovery service. And so far we have aided in the recovery of over $14 million worth of stolen bicycles. We have over 500,000 users worldwide. And we offer registration tools and software for law enforcement agencies, universities, bike shops, and of course, the everyday cyclist. So just gonna run through a couple things we offer for law enforcement in municipalities today. I won't take up too much of your time, but Boise has been kind of one of our shining star partnerships, thanks in large part to Officer Fritz's work. He's done a ton to get the community integrated in using Bike Index, and I think after we've been working together for a couple years, it's really gotten off the ground, and you're seeing tons of registration and recovery without too much effort. So hopefully we can get some other agencies around Boise on board and help you guys get bikes back to your cyclists in town. So I'm gonna share my screen. I have a brief presentation for you guys. Can everyone see this?
Yep, we're good.
Okay, let me just open it up to the bigger screen. Where is that button? Alrighty. So we'll start with a recovery story. I just took a bunch of screen grabs from conversations I've had with Ed over the past few years. Here's a recovery that came from the Boise Bike Project, or the Boise registration drive that happened a few years ago. Thanks to officers and volunteers in Boise registering over 500 bikes in one event, they were able to recover bikes and return them to their owners, which is the whole purpose of Bike Index. Another statistic that we've gathered from one of our other great partners, Calgary up in Canada, recovered 21.5% of bikes reported stolen to Calgary police through Bike Index registration and CPS buy-in. So this is a huge statistic. The Bike Index average recovery rate's about 10%, and I think reported recovery rates for agencies that host their own registration systems or do not have registration at all, bike recovery annually is less than 1%. So we have some great partners that really have leveraged our registration tools throughout their community to drastically boost bike theft recovery rates. A bit more information. Bike Index has been around since 2013, and we have the highest bike theft recovery rate of any registration service. In 2020, we recovered over 1,500 bikes through our Bike Index organization partners. We registered over almost 250,000 bikes and signed up 200 new partner organizations. And already since then, these numbers have increased significantly throughout 2021. As I mentioned earlier, we have over $14 million in stolen bike recoveries at this point, and we are well over 1,000 partner organizations working on the ground in communities to get bikes registered. I'm going to run through a couple tools we offer for you guys that I think are some of our most important tools that we have built specifically for law enforcement in municipalities to really make an impact in your community. One of these tools is the law enforcement dashboard, which basically allows you to see which organizations in your zip code are registering bikes in Bike Index. And these organizations could include bike shops, universities, advocacy groups, transportation groups, you name it. And even if people are not registering directly with you, if they're registering in your zip code with another organization, you will see that registration data. And the point of this is to see where registration efforts are having the biggest effect. So instead of kind of throwing stuff at the wall and hoping it sticks, you can see that, you know, a bike shop is registering bikes, another bike shop is maybe struggling to register bikes. And you can go to that other bike shop and say, hey, here's some resources to make it easier for you. And it just makes everything more efficient. And we'll get into this a little bit more, but bike shops have automatic point of sale registration tools through Bike Index. So every bike that leaves the floor of a shop is registered before it's even ridden. And those tools are free and require no effort on your part. And here's an example of Boise's dashboard. I hope you don't mind that I screenshotted this, Ed. But you can kind of see that there's a certain number of bikes that have been registered with the city of Boise. An equal number of bikes have been registered in the area by other organizations. And then you have a number of people who've registered their bike in Boise based on zip code, but have not registered specifically with the city. You can kind of see all of this information in one place so that you know exactly what's going on. And you can see that your registration efforts are having greater effect in certain areas. Here we are at the bike shop point of sale integration that I was mentioning a minute ago. So Ed has done an amazing job with this, getting local bike shops on board. And what this does is we have tools, free tools for bike shops to register every bike that they sell automatically at point of sale. So the shop doesn't have to do anything once they've set this up. Law enforcement doesn't have to do anything to get these bikes registered. And these are official partnerships through the point of sale retail systems. So most bike shops know what they are. They're using them already, and they're just free tools to get tens of thousands of bike registrations with literally no work for you. And here's a couple more examples from Ed. As he mentioned, about a third of the shops in Boise, as of a few months ago, were registered to register bikes on Bike Index through their point of sale system. And these registrations accounted for 60 to 70% of Boise's registrations last year. And as Ed mentioned, this was immensely helpful due to COVID when all the registration drives were canceled. But this is 60 to 70% of bike registration that requires literally no work on your part and comes at no cost. So this is a great tool we found that really gets bikes in the community registered with law enforcement, and that means that you can get in touch with them if you find them. And here's another example of a recovery. In this case, the owner didn't even report the bike stolen, but the local bike shop signed up for registration at the point of sale and was still able to get in touch with the owner when BPD officers recovered the bike. So this is a super great, easy tool that Bike Index offers for anyone who wants to do bike registration. Another important tool we offer for bike registration in cities is our integration with LeadsOnline. As many of you may know about, LeadsOnline is an online database that allows pawn shops to cross-reference stolen property. So any bike that's reported stolen on Bike Index with their police report number will be searchable by the Lead system so that pawn shops can flag stolen property. And another good thing about this is it's good incentive for registrants. So not only do we want to encourage registration, but we want to make registration as easy and worthwhile as possible. So having something like this encourages people to register their bikes with you because the chance of them getting it back is increased. And then of course, this is good for you because it encourages people to report their theft. So just another example of a tool that Bike Index offers for law enforcement. Another comment from Ed, most productive pawn shop visit ever. Thanks to people who registered on Bike Index, and thanks to the pawn shops for being diligent. You can recover tons of bikes. And then we also have a stolen bike hot sheet. And basically you can sign up to see who has reported thefts directly to your inbox. And hopefully users of Bike Index have reported these thefts to you. But if they have not and just reported them to Bike Index, then you will see all of the theft reports every day. And we've got a couple recovery examples from the hot sheet. If you see a bike on the hot sheet, you know what to look out for, and the likelihood of recovery increases once more. And a big part of Bike Index is the fact that we are a community-centric platform. So our goal is to integrate with your community the way you want to operate and really get all of the local players on board in the way that works for you. We know every community is different. We know that there will be different buy-in from all the different kinds of organizations, but even without law enforcement or other organization buy-in, you will see that Bike Index galvanizes your community to keep an eye out for each other and look out for stolen bikes. Oops. Can you guys still see my screen? I think I exited out on accident. Oh, here we go. Okay. Sorry about that. Here's another example of a community recovery. A bike shop saw a random bike ditched in the area, grabbed it, ran the serial number, and within a day got it back to their owner thanks to Bike Index registration. Another example, Boise PD picked up this bike in February, checked Bike Index, and were able to track it back to the owner, even though this owner had moved in 2016. So just another good example of community involvement with Bike Index and Boise PD. And then social media tools we offer is a great way to engage with the community via Bike Index. We automatically tweet every bike that's reported stolen from both Bike Index's Twitter and from a regional Twitter account. So we have one set up for Boise, but we can pretty much set up a regional Twitter account for any area. And then all stolen bikes that are reported to Bike Index will automatically go out to that account for people to look at. And then we offer users promoted alerts on Facebook and Instagram that get thousands of additional eyes on their bike. So we hope to leverage these online free tools for people to broadcast their theft. And once again, incentivize cyclists in your area to register. Because you could have the registration platform, but if nobody is doing it, then it doesn't do much good. Here's an example of one of our promoted alerts. Basically, you can just report your bike stolen on Bike Index and then pick an image of your bike, and we'll generate this media and post it to Facebook and Instagram and target it to bike theft sympathetic viewers within 25 miles of the theft. And then here's some examples of the Twitter account that I was talking about. Any bike that's reported to us, we will tweet out with the Bike Index link and a picture of the bike. And obviously on Twitter, anyone can monitor these accounts and click on the bike for more info. And just to sum it all up, Bike Index is the #1 platform used by law enforcement agencies to register and recover stolen bikes. Here are some of our tools listed. We didn't go over everything, but as I mentioned, I will send our partner deck over to the participants of this call, and you can look through it as you want, now or later. But we kind of hit on that, the dashboard, the integration with LeadsOnline, the stolen bikes hot sheet, social media tools. But we have a bunch of additional tools to help you manage your data. We have the new impounded bikes feature that you can use with your property units to publish stolen bikes and receive claims from the community if someone sees their bike, with the goal of just getting bikes out of your impound lot more quickly. And then we also have a whole system of credibility badges to make sure that registrations are viable. And we are a 501c3 nonprofit, as I mentioned earlier. We are very motivated to work within communities to make sure registration and recovery is super easy and works for you guys. And we'll just finish it off with a couple of our law enforcement partner testimonials. We have law enforcement partnerships all over North America, Canada, East Coast, West Coast, Midwest. So we have found that the more people who are looking out for the same bikes on Bike Index, the higher the rate of recovery. And I should have mentioned earlier that Bike Index is a universal system. So say someone in Pocatello registers a bike, people in Boise can search that bike and get in touch with the bike owner. It doesn't matter where you live, your registration follows you wherever you go. So there's no need to register with 20 different organizations. And as Ed mentioned, Boise State University is on Bike Index, so any bikes that they register can be searched by Boise police, and that carries for any organizations that are registering bikes. So that is it. Didn't want it to be too long, but I figure that we could open it for questions. Let me just navigate out of this and back to my screen. Okay, I saw a couple questions in the chat. Am I cool to just take questions? Is there anything else we want to discuss first?
No, go ahead, Lily.
Okay. I see. What do you do with the social media post tips related to stolen bike posts? Are they forwarded to a law enforcement agency? That's a great question. So anything that would have been posted to social media will also go to your hot sheet. So you can sign up and receive automatic alerts of any of these stolen bikes directly to your inbox without having to request information from us. So it's all super streamlined. But that's the only question I see in the chat. So if anybody else wants to ask in the chat or just using your mic, I'm here for that.
Yeah, feel free to unmute yourself and ask any questions up there. Some of the ones I usually come up with. So for obviously you went through the successes and stories and pieces like that. So of law enforcement agencies, because like you said, typically bike recovery is fairly minimal, to say the least, if there's not that effort for it. So what is some of the feedback you guys get on the community side of it, just from people that have bikes out and about and have been able to find their bike through your guys' system?
I think on the community side, most people are astonished, right? Because A, they don't think there's any reason to report their bike because they don't think that there's any chance of recovery. Bikes are unique in that they're high value objects that you walk outside and they can aid in their own theft, right? You can just jump on the bike and ride away. And especially with the proliferation of online platforms like OfferUp and Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist, it's really hard to stop the sale of stolen property. But basically, when you put your bike on Bike Index as just a member of the community, a cyclist anywhere, the ability for people to see your stolen bike increases thousands-fold. As I mentioned, we have on our way to 1 million users, and most of those people are invested in bike theft and bike protection, so they're keeping an eye out for stolen bikes on social media, on online sales platforms. And if somebody puts their bike on Bike Index, they can report it stolen and open their account for messaging. And we get hundreds of these messages coming through Bike Index a day, and my coworker Brian and I monitor all of them. And there's people, and they're just out there reporting stolen bikes. You know, if they see something on OfferUp that looks like a bike that matches someone's theft report on Bike Index, they can message them and send them the OfferUp link. And as I mentioned before, our average recovery rate hovers around 10 to 12%, which is, 10 times the recovery rate of people who don't report their bike, register their bike, or report it stolen. So, of course, we'd like that to be higher, but we do have the most successful recovery platform of any registration service.
Another question. So if you're a law enforcement agency or just an agency like that wanted to look into Bike Index or sign up for BikeX, what kind of the process would that be? What would the next steps be for them?
Yeah, so we have a municipality/law enforcement webpage at bikeindex.org. At the top, you'll see the different kinds of organizations that we work with, and you can just click cities. And it kind of lists out everything we offer for municipalities, the different price points. And then there's a bunch of buttons, which basically all lead back to my email inbox to contact us or get a free trial. So I'm pretty much your go-to. You can email me or get in touch through any of those buttons with any questions. Basically, you just set up a free account at bikeindex.org for your agency, and then I will enable all of our free features, some of which I talked about before, the integration with LeadsOnline, the stolen bikes hot sheet. We have a bulk import option if you want to add a bunch of bikes from an old system. Bulk serial search, you can put in 200 serials and see if they're in the system. And then we just go from there. We kind of determine what your agency needs specifically. We work together to get bike shops and other organizations in your area on board so that they're registering bikes in your system. And it just kind of becomes a evolving partnership that we work on over the weeks and months and hopefully years to get people registered. So the beginning process is pretty straightforward.
And what about for a university? Like I know I called out Ben earlier before we got started, being with the College of Idaho in a municipality very close to us. So how does that compare for a university to get signed up?
The process is super similar. You just, once again, go to bikeindex.org and create a free organization account for your university. I set up a couple of free features for your university that are a little bit different. And then we go from there. Of course, the university's needs in bike registration tend to be slightly different. You're going to want to collect slightly different information like student ID number and what kind of member of the campus community are they, student, faculty, employee, what have you. And then we have additional resources such as QR stickers that we didn't really discuss, but that organizations like universities or Boise, you guys both use the QR stickers, really find useful, especially on a campus where turnover is really high. So you have people coming in 1 year, leaving their bike somewhere, it's locked inappropriately. You need to be able to message that owner or cut their bike and dispose of it. So we have a bunch of university-specific resources as well that go beyond bike theft and recovery, but also into the bike management area.
Does anyone else have any questions for Lily? As no one's popping up, I'm going to thank Lily for attending. I know they've been a great resource for us. We had our registry for like 1991, I think is when we first started. And we would get some success for it. We get the complaint we would get from folks are always, from at least from our CSSs, that'd be the one collecting found bikes around, is just how old and outdated the information was. And that's kind of the benefit I see of a bike index, because we have so many people out in a community that are engaged with cycling, daily, weekly, whichever else like that. And they're able to maintain their data, maintain their information, and having so much more success with just contacting someone even through Bike Index. Click on the link and then shoot off a message to them. And, sometimes I got a message back very quickly. I got a phone call very quickly for that. But they've definitely helped our efforts in, getting stolen bikes reported and getting stolen bikes recovered much more thoroughly. Just this morning, I got hit by a couple of our NEMPA contact officers who did some police work and ended up in a backyard that was pretty much full of bicycles with that. So it was obviously a need to try to find these bikes. The owners figured most of them are stolen, and so they got me involved. We have a room full of bikes here right now that we started going through, And just very easily by typing in the serial numbers, looking up, searching a description, able to determine 6 of the bikes were stolen anywhere from, a couple days ago to, last July. And most of the people won't be too excited to get their stuff back since it's in fairly poor condition. But the fact that, 2 people that were very actively stealing bikes in Boise are now behind bars for this and getting charged and other things is very, very nice to see with it. So Lily didn't mention our Stolen Bikes Boise page or the other stolen wherever bikes pages that they have, but we've seen just the engagement pick up quite a bit from there on, once again, those concerned people in your community, those bike cyclists in your community that either like their cycles or B, just don't like people stealing stuff from what it is and shipping in back and forth. Hey, I saw this bike here. Hey, I got the picture of this one. And just once again, getting a lot of them to do the hard work and find bikes for us out in the community. So I enlist so many more eyes in there. And Lisa just came up in the chat saying, I introduced them to Bike PD and they returned 2 stolen bikes last week, worth nearly $5,000 with that. And so it's, people will put in their very expensive bikes. People get their very expensive bikes stolen from time to time too around town, which still surprises me, but it's been a great resource for us without a doubt in, engaging the community and returning bikes to folks. So last call for any questions. Cool. Well, Lily, thanks again for jumping on, and thanks for all you do with Bike Index. And that is it for everyone else. So we will see you guys probably with another topic here in the next few months to get it out on kind of a lunch and learn format like we have here. So look for more information on that. Look for more information in the ICPA newsletter for there. If you have any more information, I can forward out. We'll forward out the information that Lily provides us on Bike Index and how to contact her. Or like she said, just go to www.bikeindex.org. You can contact through there and take those next steps in protecting bikes in your community. So anyways, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Lily. We'll talk to you next time.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.